He was already there when Chase got assigned to the dive platform. No one introduced him. No handshake. Just a quiet presence in the back of the salvage bay, hunched over a workbench that always seemed cleaner than regulation required. He didn't wear a name tag. Didn't wear a uniform either. Just a plain gray shirt, sleeves rolled, hands always busy, checking valves, coiling cables, wiping down dive masks that weren't his. Most of the team called him the Dock Ghost, not cruelly, just out of habit, a figure you learned to work around. He never interrupted, never explained. But nothing in the bay ever failed after he touched it. On Chase's first week, he watched the man replace the O-ring on a regulator. Not part of the day's checklist. No one had flagged it. Chase asked quietly, "Something wrong with it?" The man didn't look up, just said, "Felt wrong." That was it. Then he moved on to the next tank. Chase asked one of the senior divers about him later. "That guy in the back, he civilian?" "Yeah, I think. Been around longer than the platform. Doesn't talk much." "What's his job?" "Doesn't have one. Just shows up." "And that's allowed?" The diver shrugged. "He knows what he's doing. Let him be." That didn't sit right with Chase. He was trained for precision, for protocol. You didn't just let someone be in an environment where an unnoticed crack could take your lungs out. So the next morning, he came in early, found the man alone, double-checking the weights on the belt rack. Not the main ones, the backups. The ones no one touched unless everything else failed. "You always do this?" Chase asked. The man didn't answer right away. Just finished adjusting a strap, then spoke without turning. "Every shift." Chase stepped closer. "You ever dive?" The man's hands paused for a breath. Then, "Used to." That was all. And before Chase could say anything else, the man stood, placed the belt exactly in line with the rest, and walked out of the bay. Not rushed. Not rude. Just done. And Chase stood there, staring at the perfect line of gear the man had left behind, wondering what it meant to do something every day, without needing anyone to notice. The next day, Chase found a weight belt that didn't match the rest. Same dimensions, same lead fill, but older, faded nylon, stitching rubbed soft with time. And along the inner strap, a name barely visible under worn ink. Reyes. It wasn't on the equipment manifest, wasn't assigned to any diver. He carried it to the back bench where the old man stood alone, wiping condensation from a pressure gauge. "This isn't logged," Chase said. The man didn't look up. Chase tried again. "Whose was it?" The man glanced at the belt. His eyes lingered for half a breath. Then, "Mine." "You're Reyes?" A slow nod. Chase turned the belt in his hands. "You used to run dive ops?" "No," the man said quietly. "I used to survive them." Chase waited, expecting more. But the man turned back to the gauge, tightening a hose fitting with slow, exact hands. Chase didn't leave. "What happened?" Reyes didn't answer. Instead, he ran a finger around the regulator seal like he was feeling for something no machine could catch. Finally, he said, "Too many maps are drawn by people who never went under." Chase frowned. "You mean sonar teams?" "I mean anyone who calls the seafloor a number." The tone wasn't angry, just tired, weighted, like someone who'd learned the hard way not to trust a reading over a rhythm. Later that afternoon, during drill prep, Chase noticed Reyes standing by the submersible's tether spools, watching, not interfering. But his eyes followed the coils as they spun, like he was remembering every foot of cable, every turn, every knot, like he could feel when it was too tight before the tension even showed. Chase leaned over to the operator beside him. "Has anyone actually seen him dive?" The operator shook his head. "He doesn't even wear a wristband, doesn't go near the controls." "Then why is he here?" A shrug. "Because nothing breaks when he's around." That night, as Chase shut down the bay for final checks, he passed by Reyes' bench. The belt was still there. But now, its buckle was turned toward the door, like it had been placed there deliberately, waiting, not for anyone in particular, just for the next one who needed it. The platform's routine never changed. 0700 checklist, 0730 gear prep, 0800 tether dive drills. Chase was syncing the NAV beacons when he heard it. Raised voices from the side bay near the pressure crates. Laughter. The sharp kind. He walked over and saw two operators leaning against the crate, grinning. Reyes was crouched nearby, coiling an air hose without looking up. "Careful, old man," one said. "Wouldn't want you to pull your back keeping up with the tech." The other smirked. Don't worry, we'll patch your memory stick when you forget which end of the tank breathes. Reyes didn't react, didn't rise, didn't fire back. Just finished the coil, secured it with one smooth loop, and stood. Moved past them without a glance. Chase didn't laugh. He followed Reyes out of the bay, caught up just before the launch crane. You okay? Reyes gave him a glance. Neutral. Steady. Why wouldn't I be? Chase hesitated. You just take a lot of heat for someone who probably knows more than all of us. Reyes stopped, turned fully, and for the first time since Chase had met him, he looked directly at him, not with irritation, but something heavier. You know what people don't trust, he said. Chase shook his head. Silence, Reyes said. They don't trust what doesn't ask to be heard. He let that sit, then added softer. But when you're trapped 100 feet down with no light, no comms, and a tether line drifting sideways, that's when they listen. Later, during checklist review, the same two operators from earlier ran into a calibration issue. One blamed the new diagnostics firmware. The other cursed the tether reel. Reyes, without a word, walked over, unspooled the line halfway, tightened a clamp, and rewound it with a twist of his wrist. No instruction. No explanation. And it worked. They didn't thank him. But they didn't laugh either. That night, Chase stood alone in the bay. The belt was still on the bench. He picked it up. The fabric was stiff from salt. The kind of wear that doesn't come from drills. The kind that only comes from being under the water too long, too deep, and somehow, still making it back. The ops terminal was only supposed to be for active personnel. But Chase had clearance. Just enough to review historical maintenance reports for platform certification. That's what he told himself when he keyed in the override. He typed M. Reyes. Nothing under active records. No rank. No call sign. Not even a CivOps tag. He narrowed the range. Looked under salvage logs, redacted reports, system anomalies from older missions, and there, buried inside a flagged incident folder dated 12 years prior, op name Black Sync, asset, Tether Diver, M. Reyes Civilian, outcome, manual reroute and recovery successful, no loss of life. Attached was a single after-action memo. Reyes descended 128 feet with no sonar, no grid, no support team. Located failed subframe manually by mapping trench shifts from memory. Redirected tether line to alternative path and surface solo after 17 minutes. Refused debrief. Declined recommendation for commendation. Chase stared at the words. Not because they were heroic. Because they were quiet, matter-of-fact. Like the report itself didn't know how impossible it was. He downloaded the file to his tablet and walked out. Reyes was in the side bay, cleaning silt from the regulator bins. Same slow rhythm, same soft hands. Chase stepped forward. I read your file. Reyes didn't stop working. Wasn't mine, he said. Chase tilted his head. You're listed. Tether op, 128 feet. Manual reroute. That was you. Still, Reyes didn't meet his eyes. Doesn't matter. It does to me. A pause. Then Reyes finally looked up. Why? Because you walk this bay like it still needs you. Reyes was quiet for a long time. Then, no. I walk it because one day someone will forget something small, and I'd rather be here when they do. That night, Chase stayed after final checks. He remeasured every coil, realigned the belts, checked the backup oxygen levels twice, not because anyone told him to, because now he knew what it meant to be the one who didn't leave, even when the job stopped asking. The next day, the drills were cut short, weather rolling in, fast, tight pressure drop. No lightning, but the kind of swell that didn't show up on radar until it was already moving beneath you. Chase helped secure the recovery arms, clipped down the air tanks, everything by the book, but Reyes stayed after shift, alone. No cover. No hurry. Chase found him under the canopy, near the manual rebreather crates. Storm's tightening, Chase said. You staying out here? Reyes didn't answer. He was holding something. An old compass, metal, worn, dulled from salt. No shine. No digital face. Just a slow-turning needle in a fogged glass housing. He offered it to Chase without a word. Chase looked down at it. Took it slowly. It was heavier than it looked. Why me? He asked. Reyes watched the sky. Because you noticed. Chase turned the compass in his hand. The cardinal marks were carved, not printed. Someone had etched them in by hand. On the underside of the lid, barely visible in the dark. The current isn't the threat. Forgetting it exists is. He looked up, but Reyes was already walking away, back into the bay, back into silence. The storm passed by morning. Low surge, no damage. But during Tether check that afternoon, the lead drone slipped past its projected line. A 10-meter drift, enough to throw off the return path. Comms picked up static. The signal blinked once, then went dead. A team was already underwater. No surface markers, no sonar feedback, no recovery path. Chase stood in the command tent, the tablet in his hand showing a blank return route. The captain called out, "Where the hell's their tether line?" One operator said, "Sonar's down. Mapping's blind." Then someone whispered, "He's here." Reyes stepped in. Calm. No headset. No gloves. He walked to the display, studied it once, then tapped a blank patch near the corner of the last live ping. "That's not a drop," he said. "It's a trench. New. Tides shifted it last year." The XO blinked. "That's not in the database." Reyes nodded. "I dug it." The drone's signal returned 3 minutes after Reyes tapped the map. The SEAL team surfaced 5 after that. No injuries, just shaken. They'd followed the route he'd pointed to. Unmarked. Uncharted. Safe. When the captain asked how he knew, Reyes simply said, "Sometimes the sea moves different than the screen." Then he stepped back, left the tent, and didn't come back the next day. Chase waited. Checked the bay, the bench, the rebreather lockers. No Reyes. His tools were gone. But not everything. Sitting on the bench where he always worked, folded neatly in a coiled strap, was the belt. The old one. Reyes still faint along the edge. Salt still caked in the seams. On top of it, tucked into the fold, was a paper square, handwritten. "There's nothing heroic about remembering the terrain. Just quiet." No signature. Didn't need one. Chase showed the note to no one. He placed it in a sealed pouch, slid it into the inside flap of his own weight belt. Not for display. Just to carry. Later, a junior diver asked him, "Hey, where's that old guy? The one who fixed everything?" Chase answered without looking up. "Gone. Retired?" "No." That was the end of it. The sea moved quieter that week, and the dive bay never quite filled the space Reyes had left behind. But everything still worked, not out of habit, out of respect. Chase didn't plan to take his place. But the next morning, he showed up early. Earlier than protocol. Before lights. Before systems booted. Just the soft hum of tide beneath steel plates, and the echo of boots in an empty bay. He walked past the lockers, past the tanks, stopped at the same workbench Reyes had used, opened each latch, checked the regulators not by pressure, but by feel. Seal tension. Resistance. Same with the belts. He picked up each one, adjusted the straps, rebalanced the weights. Not because someone told him to. Because someone once had. Without saying a word. Later, during drills, no one mentioned Reyes, but when the senior dive tech couldn't locate a backup compass, Chase handed him one without looking. "Check the right cargo locker. Behind the sealed bin." It was there. Exactly where Reyes used to keep it. The tech blinked. "How'd you know that?" Chase shrugged. "He taught me." That night, Chase rewrote part of the gear log. Not digitally. He slid a folded paper under the bench's main drawer. A single line. "If it looks right but feels wrong, it's wrong." He didn't sign it. Didn't need to. He also didn't remove Reyes's belt. He hung it on the wall above the bench. Not as a tribute. As a presence. It wasn't polished. It wasn't framed. Just there. Waiting. A few days later, a new diver joined the platform. Young. Sharp. Quiet. Chase saw him linger near the bench after morning checks. Eyes on the belt. Then on the compass Chase now kept on his own rig. The diver asked softly, "Who was that for?" Chase replied without looking up, "Someone who remembered the trench before the data did." It was a quiet dive. Nothing complicated, just a routine depth test off the eastern shelf. No surge. No signal drift. The kind of op that runs itself when the sea cooperates. Chase was second in line off the ramp. Waded in. Regulator checked. Compass clipped to his belt. He stepped off the edge and felt the silence wrap around him the way Reyes once described it. Not emptiness. Just space. Holding you. At 40 feet, Chase paused, hovered. Watched the grid lights blink soft against the drop below. He tapped his tether line once. Not for signal. Just for feel. And in that moment, he could almost hear Reyes in the quiet. "Don't trust the map. Trust the memory." He adjusted his angle by 2 degrees. Just a hunch. 3 seconds later, His light caught a ridge the sonar had missed. Small, but real. The course was corrected. No alarm sounded. No command was issued. But the dive stayed clean. Because someone listened before the system asked. After the dive, Chase returned to the bay alone. He placed his gloves beside Reyes's belt, sat for a while at the bench, didn't check the logs, didn't speak, just let the stillness settle around him. The hum of the platform, the drip of salt water off gear hooks, the space that Reyes once filled, not loud, not visible, present. Chase reached into his belt pocket and unfolded the note again. The ink hadn't run. There's nothing heroic about remembering the terrain. Just quiet. He placed it back, sealed the pouch, hung his gloves, and left the bench light on. Not as a signal. Just in case someone else came looking. Not for help, but for memory. Because the sea doesn't need applause. It just needs people who remember where the current pulls hardest. And who's still down there, steadying the course, even if no one sees it.